Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Medrano, and it's my lucky day, and yours too. I'm getting to sit here with two of my favorite men on the whole planet, and we're going to have a conversation. This is Reverend Joshua Reeves, and this is Dr. Roger Teel. Yay! He's back from vacation. Not vacation. I guess it's kind of a vacation. Retirement. He's been away from us, getting used to life in retirement since March, and we're happy to have him back to have a conversation about what's been going on in his life since then. How's
Thanks
retirement?
for having me back.
Our pleasure. Yay.
Well, it's been an amazing journey, you know. A lot of decompression. You know, it's been interesting for me to experience how I had gotten so used to being kind of tightly wound,
Sure.
if you could use that phrase, that I carried kind of a normal, prevailing tightness, like, you know, stuff's happening and I got to stay on the bead and know what's happening. And I think I had just acclimated to that, and it become a way of life. And I don't think it did me any damage, but at the same time, I do think it may have kept me from a deeper peace. But, you know, I was on purpose, and I'm happy that I was, because I didn't do the ministry in a cavalier way. It was full bore,
right,
you know, for me. Although full bore in a minister who gives talks is not something you really want to say. I was full steam ahead all the time. All the time. So over these months, I've been interested to feel that loosening up that I'd forgotten about. You know, like when you're a kid and you're just out playing and not a care in the world, you know. Just kind of beginning to reacquaint with some of that.
Right.
Some of that stuff. So lots of deep breaths while you're doing this wonderful work you're doing. And lots of retreats.
Sure.
You know, do some things to consciously let go. It's been a fascinating journey in a whole lot of respects for me.
I'm sure it has. Now, have you experienced any shift in your sense of identity? I'm always fascinated by that. Because of this tight woundedness, I think sometimes that whole notion of we see ourselves as human doings versus human beings. And so have you discovered realms of yourself or aspects of yourself now that your identity has shifted, you know, from being a minister out in the world and instead of being a minister at Mile High on this tightly wound schedule every day?
Well, I think that's really a part of this whole journey, is to release those identities that also have become second nature. Right. And really integrated within. Part of, you know, for about a year and a half, I was receiving direct guidance that that chapter as pulpit minister and as senior minister here was concluding. And then as I read a book by Richard Rohr, who I study with a lot, called Falling Upward, that's when he talked about the second half of life. And how it is that in the first half of life, it's all about establishing our identity and our roles and our money and our stuff and our key relationships and our reputation and all the things we sometimes think life is all about. But how actually there comes a time when we're invited to move into the second half of life, which is where we willingly and consciously journey beyond that. And it doesn't mean that we reject all of that. I mean, all that our families and all the good we've built up in life is a beautiful thing. And yet there's a deeper experience of our being, as I think you alluded in your very question. There's a deeper experience in our being that awaits when we let go of that and journey back into our elemental beingness and really get to experience how attached we may have become to our roles, how attached we are to the way things have been, and that kind of thing. And it's kind of like the snake that sheds its skin quite regularly. That's a good image. You know, and or the lobster. Lobsters do it too. They shed their shells, and they're vulnerable, but that shell they shed was too small for the stage of growth that they were ready to move into, so they had to shed it, and they're totally vulnerable. They could get eaten, whether when they're without that protection, but they do it, and and grow a new one, and off to the next chapter they go. So yeah, for me, it's been a lot of that releasing, and it hasn't always been easy. I must honestly admit.
Sure.
I struggled with it. I grieved.
Yes.
I have little flashes of it too, still. But it's still good. It's still good because I'm very proud of Mile High. I'm proud of you two.
Thank you.
You're doing a phenomenal job. I'm very, very grateful. That makes it easier for me to keep releasing. Because for many years, I said something that now I wonder how wise it was, but I would say, Mile High Church, that's my baby. That's my baby. And just like any parent, at some point has to let, their baby go, whether it's to college or whatever.
Right.
There's always a letting go. And so for me, this has been that time of letting go, but still loving. I still love Mile High. I still love what it's all about. And but letting go and journeying and wandering a little bit into the wilderness. And so that's a long-winded answer to
It's a good answer.
a simple question.
Well, when you were first sharing about just the physical demands and that switch, I actually was thinking of motherhood, not that I know anything about it, but watching my mom or my wife with our kids, it kind of feels like it's like stepping on to a treadmill and never stepping off. You're always engaged, and it sounds like in a way that the shift now, because you still care about Mile High, is just learning to relate and find new ways of parenting that aren't so constant as well as you take care of yourself, and just what immense trust in your own process. I hear as well, so much about surrender and release and deeper listening, but to be in that place of letting go and into that greater skin, that greater way of being.
Yeah, I'm very devoted to the spiritual journey, as you know, and I think there are times when we who are ministers are well advised to shut up and listen. And as Jesus said, get apart a while. That's why he did it, was to reconnect with that. And I know you have your practices and you do that.
Sure.
And yet this is a radical invitation on my part. And it's been interesting to see my prayer life deepen as I deal with this new uncertainty. Right now, I don't know what I'll be doing. I know I will be doing something for Spirit. Like we got ordained, it's like you can't walk away from that.
Right.
But at the same time, that ordination's a deep thing of the Spirit that I know I want to teach somehow, and I want to keep speaking occasionally, and I want to write, and I want to reach out and serve in some way on my own terms, in a way that works for me. So that'll happen. But right now, I don't know what that emphasis will be or what it will be entail. That hasn't emerged yet. So it's not its time.
Right.
So I just have to let the soil be fallow for a while, and trust that at some point the inspiration will arrive, and it will. But I know I'm in, and I think probably a lot of you who are watching will experience this not just at retirement, but at other phase changes and chapters in your life. And there's always what a guy whose book I read a long time ago, but it's come back to me now, is William Bridges in his book Transitions. A classic book, I think. And that there's a transition time when you go from one chapter to another.
Yes.
And I think the tendency in our largely type A society is, no. Some ends, we want the new to begin now.
Right.
And we're going to do everything we can possibly do to make it happen. Create the new thing now. It's got to be new. We don't want the uncertainty. So we rush to we rush to figure it out too soon. We rush to certainty. We leap to certainty too much. And so Bridges said, you've got to have a transition. There is a transition if you're going to have a healthy new beginning. And if you don't honor that transition, you usually drag unhealed, unresolved elements of the past into the new. And so the new doesn't really get to be new. So maybe you're dealing with that. I don't know, you who are listening, that you have to be willing to kind of do what I'm doing, and that's hang out in the transition zone for a while. And truly complete the old and all the feelings and whatever is up from the old, truly complete it, be willing to be a little uncertain, and then at some point you're ready for something really or authentically new to emerge, and it's not polluted by or influenced by what was before. For me, my time here was the most glorious thing. I cherish every one of those 25 years as senior minister and my 10 years as associate minister here before that, and I just cherish it all. So it's not like I had a lot of healing to do, but it's like it's like in the transition zone, I get to let that go too. So you see, sometimes when you're moving from chapter to chapter, you get to let the successes go and let the attachments go, and along with any grieving or any whatever, you got to clean up all that stuff, let it go. Then at some point, life shifts you into gear, or you shift into a new gear, I think it is. And so, that's what's still ongoing for me. No timetable for it, but it's okay. And you know what? I'm day by day feeling better and better about it. Day by day.
That's great. Good. And you've had some wonderful, relaxing adventures too. You've taken,
we've done a few
little
trips,
traveling,
a little bit,
and had more time for family and grandkids.
Totally, and I'm loving that.
That's good.
That's great.
Yes,
that's great.
Have you started driving Erica crazy, being home all day long?
Of course I have.
Oh, good.
No, you know what? She is such a happy camper. As I know your spouses could share, in a ministry like this, actually, I think in any ministry, spouses give a lot. They give up a lot.
They do.
And in so doing, they're contributing a lot. And over these many years, all the years of our marriage, 31 years of our marriage, she's not had some of the things that a lot of other spouses have. Predictable time together, and the ability to change things on a dime if you want to, some of those freedoms, and putting up with the early middle of the night calls from somebody in church when I have to get up and go do that, and just all of this stuff. And so I think she's happy. She's a happy camper. She really likes it, and but we still have our own individual things going on.
Sure.
So it's not like I'm following her around saying, what am I going to do now? Erica, tell me, what should today be?
Yes.
We have our together times, but we also have our own stuff going on.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
She's doing great, too.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, that's great. And I know Michelle feels the same way. We're just so grateful to you and how you've supported us, and even getting to lead and work together, which has been great. Helps us in our self-care, helps us in our relationships as we're helping to lead this great place. And I think one of the wonderful things that you've done in ministry and beyond as well is just build great partnerships and great community.
That's important.
And I hope you see as a testament to your great leadership here that we're still afloat and doing quite well, and planting our new seeds for growth and taking care of what has been not just your baby but so many babies here of Mile High Church, and so excited to be welcoming you back into the fold to continue your meditation retreats, and we've got a couple speaking dates where I know people are just going to be so thrilled to get to see and reconnect with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. As I set up this whole transition process, I knew that once that March 3rd date came and went, and I marched forth into this new chapter, that I still needed, and the church needed, a process. So I needed to stay away for 6 months.
Right.
And I hope you who are mile highers who are watching understand that I wasn't frustrated with the church. I wasn't upset about anything, but I tried to tell as many times as I could that you'll see me in the fall, because I think the church needed a time to adjust to these incredible new leaders and embrace them and experience itself in that new chapter with you.
Right.
And I needed the time too, as did Erica, to adjust to what we're about. So, next month, I look forward to that. September 22nd and 29th. I'll see if I remember how to put a talk together.
I'm sure you'll do great.
You've decided as well to take a 6 months vacation. Now it's the time to come back. There we go.
See Dr. Roger.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to keep doing the meditation and prayer retreats. I really love those.
Yes.
And I've written an advanced one, which went off really, really well.
I heard a
but
lot
we're
of
doing a
great
basic
feedback.
one in November, mid-November, 14th through 17th. Come on along with us. It's really, I love those retreats because each one is unique, though they have preset formats. Inevitably, I adjust it to the people who are there. But in the basic one, we teach 14 different approaches to meditation for the students to try on. And we do prayer work, and we have a lot of fun. It's a really rich thing. I mean, before I wrote the advanced one, there were people who'd been at the basic one 6, 7, 8, 9 times.
Right.
In the 10 years we've done these. So, maybe you'd like to come and have a deepening experience. It's a 4-day thing, and you arrive at about 1 or so on the first day, and we have our introductory day, and then 2 full days, and then we're done at noon on the final day. And they seem to develop a really incredible power. And so I invite you to be part of that.
We can tell the people who've been on it because they come back walking on air. So
Yes.
with a couple extra feet. Oh, you were at the meditation retreat.
Right,
weren't you?
right. And that does remind me, I wanted to ask you, you alluded a little bit to this around spiritual practice with that unwinding happening and that kind of letting go. Have you experienced a deeper sense in your spiritual practice? Have you experienced a depth in your practice that you hadn't before?
Yeah, and it's really hard to put into words.
I can imagine.
It's very hard to put into words, but in this process of releasing and a little bit of grieving and all that stuff, to just return to who I've always been, and what I call that elemental essence of us, that spiritual essence of us, and to just hang out there. In a time of newness and shedding and releasing. And that's been, I'm going to talk a little bit about that on those Sundays in September.
Good.
Because I see it as a part of our evolutionary journey as we really become the channels and embodiments of God we're designed to be. And there are times we have to really connect deeper with who we really are, apart from what the world thinks we are or we've come to believe we are. Who am I really?
Right.
Who am I really? And that's a beautiful thing, but it's very hard to put into words.
I'm sure.
It's about.
I feel like that's part of why people do repeat your meditation retreat so often. Is number one, it's such a lovely and nurturing experience for them to continue their evolutionary journey, and because I've witnessed through your ministry, you're constantly evolving and going deeper. So I can imagine that even now, especially now with this new experience, that you've continued that deepening in a way that I'm sure you're going to get a lot of repeat customers because they want to come and continue to experience this deeper and deeper and deeper Roger Teel, which is hard to imagine you going in deeper, but
Well, here's the thing. It's been said that God speaks in the silence.
Right.
And as the silence. And I think the best way I can articulate it is that I've begun to experience a deeper degree of silence within me, which I think is the ground of the divine within me, within us all. And so, it's interesting to me to have discovered that even holding a sense of an identity is a noise within us in a way. And so, in surrendering a lot of that, there's just a deeper silence there. So it's interesting to me because I've known about the, practicing the presence and entering into the silence and those things, and I've experienced it to a degree. But in this time, it seems like I'm realizing that there was a greater depth in the silence. That there can be things that are like voices or energetics within us that still don't keep us quite as deeply silent in our being as we can be.
definitely.
So that's been an interesting.
I'm sure.
And, I get the sense too that a key to any healthy life transition is keeping that essence close. And that's something through your continued spiritual practice, no matter how busy you may have been, during this year or that year. It sounds like that's been very informative to you in making some of these steps that you're taking. Because the truth is, when it comes to making big transitions in our lives, too many of us let life make them for us, as opposed to listening to that voice within and helping them guide us. And what wonderful demonstrations we have when we are listening to that voice and where it's leading us, and not even just in career, but in relationship and just being a human being.
Right.
Yes, to get apart and meditate is to really step out of the life that is living us and explore just being still without trying to figure anything out, without trying to accomplish anything, so to speak. Because what wants to be there will be there. Will be there for sure. Another thing that I've discovered in all this thing is the importance in the transition times of our lives for a lot of self-compassion.
Yes.
To understand that there are times when our supposed weakness is actually our strength.
Yes.
And so to bring a sense of compassion when we're hurting to ourselves, and not to add to it by saying, but I shouldn't feel this way. That is ineffective and a kind of an assault on the child within us, In those times that when we struggle, as I have a little bit, or hurt, as I have a little bit, there are times saying, for God's sakes, you're a minister for over 4 decades. You shouldn't be, you should have this handled by now.
Right.
But then with a little reminder from my beloved and very powerful wife, and also my own prayer time, it's like, hey, would it be all right to love yourself with these things? Not trying to stop feeling those feelings, but instead, how about loving that you feel? And loving that this is a process that is okay,
Right.
without judgment. I think that's another part of the transition time, is to love yourself no matter where you're at and how you're feeling about those times. Because I think that's a healthy inner climate that lets things then work themselves out. But it's when you push them away or say, I shouldn't, or you beat yourself up for what's absolutely natural, or the grieving or the hurts or whatever it is that the child within us feels, that just injures us further. So that's been a very interesting thing, is going easy on myself and loving myself through this time. And it's been good. It's been a good inner deepening.
A huge part of that grief is born out of the fact that you love us and love Mile High so much.
Definitely.
It's when something slips away from us, I think that grief is a clear sign of love, because if we didn't love it, if we didn't,
we wouldn't care.
We wouldn't care. It would almost be like, yay, that's gone, let's move on. But because we love so deeply, when those transitions happen, we have to kind of move through those other feelings too. So
I'm still in transition, but I'm doing my best to flow and grow, and all is well. So I want to ask you two, what have been, I'm taking over.
Uh-oh, he's taking over. It's a coup.
I want to ask
it's a podcast coup.
I want to ask you two, what have been each of your biggest or most interesting discoveries in this shift that you've made? And again, I'm so grateful that you two were willing to be here. You're the perfect people. You're the most powerful ministers in our movement, and you're doing such a beautiful job. But I'm just intrigued as to what's been the most interesting discovery for you.
Well, for me, it goes back to a sense of identity. I was a senior minister for 17 years in Scottsdale.
Right.
And I really loved that time and cherished that time. And when you invited me to come back here and serve in a different role, a part of me was a little surprised that I was willing to do that. It was that intuitive voice that said, this is your next step, take it. And those about 6 years have been fabulous, and I have learned so much. For me, what I didn't even know is that the opportunity that you have given us in supporting us in becoming lead ministers is that I've sort of feel this sense of, in terms of my ministry, oh yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
This, I feel, the only way I can say it is, it's like, oh, I feel like me again. And it wasn't like I was discontent necessarily in my other role before you retired. It was sometimes a little bit different, and I felt very honored, and I was learning and growing and expanding in this. It was almost like I was deepening into myself during that time of not being in a role of leadership like this, and now that I'm in this leadership role, that all is coming to bear, and I'm getting to step into being who I think I really am in terms of ministry and bring that forth. So it's kind of a rediscovery of myself that's been
well, and in so doing, you probably took a leap you didn't realize you would take as you paused being senior minister and then redid it. It's kind of like when I left here in 89 and was away for 4 years. I'd finished 10 years as associate minister. Well, I came back totally different.
Yes.
And I don't think I would have been the kind of senior minister that I was if I hadn't had those times away.
No.
So sometimes there's that's the hidden blessing in what seems like a loss.
It is.
It prepares you for something better.
It is. And I think if for example, when you brought me back 6 years ago, if you'd retired at that point, I don't know that I would have been as ready to be a great partner for Josh, to be as ready to step into the role. It took these years of being with you, continuing to be mentored by you and by the whole community and the experience of Mile High to go, okay, I'm ready now. Yeah. I'm ready. So I feel like it's a sense of myself that I'm really happy to be experiencing is back. And I also think that it's been a huge, wonderful blessing to do this in partnership with Josh, because I really love working with Josh, and I love who we are together and how we're getting to lead the community together. And I think it's a real blessing to the community too. It really serves. And I just feel this very sense of happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment in the partnership. So I'm grateful for that.
You both gave up being senior ministers in your communities to come here. Boy, that's big. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of transitioning. And
yes.
For me, I think from you, Roger, not only have I learned a lot about how to be a great minister, but a healthy minister. And I think that was a curriculum I didn't know I was in for in coming here, and going through all this, stepping into a new position of having a baby daughter, which is a great lesson for identity, because she doesn't know you're the lead minister at Mile High Church, nor does she care. She is very centering force. But first of all, just realizing how fun the work is, and that's part of team as well. And part of the great thing about getting to partner with Michelle is that it helps you realize, first of all, that a church isn't about its minister, as great as he or she may be. It's about the people, and it's about loving the people. And what a great opportunity to get to partner with all the church leaders, the ministers, the practitioners, the board, the congregants, and really focus in on that, and how fun, and that takes that pressure off of, how are you going to fill Dr. Rogers' shoes, or how are you going to do that? And said, no, the shoes are right over there. We're just gonna
I got my own shoes.
Yes, that's right.
And we just get to do a good job and have fun. And so one of my sayings has been, kind of the challenge is immense, because it's this great, wonderful community that's been here for so long and will continue to be. But the work is easy. The work is fun. It's just really about showing up and being pure in that authenticity and that honesty that's about bringing these incredible principles to people's lives and wanting to improve them. And so that's been great. And it's not that there's not times where it's not stressful or we're feeling a little bit behind, but to be able to look over and to have a partner and have a team and say, we're all in this together, and feeling your prayers and other people's prayers too. It's made it a joy, which I don't know if I would have thought I would be saying that a year ago, of just how fun it is, and just what a wonderful congregation that we have here, of people who take their spirituality seriously, but also don't recognize transitions, that you've got to step into change, that you always have to be committed to growth in your life. So it's been a great personal lesson for me, as well as what an honor to get to serve the folks of Mile High as we continue in our evolution, and to get to be a minister here. Another thing that's been interesting for me as well is you come into a gig like this and you think, oh, I've got to be this big vision caster. What's this big thing? And vision is an important aspect of what we do. But I love the idea too that there's the simplistic aspect of your job's to show up every day, do a good job, listen to people, care about what you're doing, write a good sermon. And so it's kind of fun to get back to basics, and to realize that when we get back to basics in our lives, how creative that is for fulfilling a vision that maybe you can't always articulate word for word and know exactly what it looks like, but to have it revealed in everything that you're doing. And so that's been a great lesson for me too.
Fantastic. I love it that you said it's fun.
Yes.
Because this is such a great teaching, such a great community, and it's such a fulfilling bandwidth of consciousness that we inhabit here. It ought to be fun. And we have a serious purpose to help people transform their lives and to contribute to global enlightenment as well. And yet I think the joy of being is a part of that, and to release the imprisoned splendor in our lives and others, that's a beautiful thing. And I'm glad you're having fun. Really glad.
Yes, we are. Definitely. Do you want to tell us any more about what you're going to talk about on those Sundays coming up at the end of September?
I don't want to give it all away.
No, there's a narrative in your two relationship to this about getting talk titles, isn't there?
Yeah. I used to bug him for him when I was his administrative assistant, and
I'm sure the marketing team is saying,
they're waiting.
Oh my God,
they're
he's
waiting.
Back and he's still late. Well, they're going to be fun, and I'm going to express some of the elements of my own journey. We've touched lightly on them here, and just hope to give people some tools to step more into their spiritual power.
Great.
Yeah, we're excited about that, Aisha. We were having a personal conversation, Roger and I, a few weeks ago, and that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that our community is so healthy. Sometimes when you go through a transition and the leader steps away, if the church isn't healthy in that, or is going through a negative process, you can't welcome them back in. And so it's a great testament to everybody that Dr. Roger can come back in and be as thriving and wonderful as ever. And
that is beautiful.
It is.
Yes, it's
and just
really exciting.
Thank you, all Mile Highers who are watching, and thank you too for all the kindnesses you've lavished me with, and Erica, and how gracious you are. To me, I think that's really kind of tantamount to how healthy things have shifted here, is that you're in a brand new space, and I support you, and yet you're also willing to welcome me back, and honor the heritage. I think that's the best of both worlds. And you know what? I just think it's all about what we've always called the Mile High magic.
Yes.
There's a magic here. It's a joy, it's an energy, it's a love, it's an enthusiasm, it's a depth. And I just don't know why anybody would ever stay away. I'm speaking to you. Why anybody would ever not want to be in the group coherence, one researcher called it, which is the consciousness field that happens when two or more are gathered. When people of like mind come together, there's an energy that expands everybody there more than they probably could on their own, really. So that's why it's a combination of private inner work and then being back in community. All the great teachers, the Buddha, talked about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha being the state of enlightenment, the Dharma being the teachings, and then Sangha, the community.
Right.
So it's not like going just into a cave and hanging out alone in a cave. It's like there's community has the power. It's a combination of all that.
It really is. That's right. Great.
Well, one more very important question that I'm sure on everybody's mind, and that's your spiritual viewpoint on how the Broncos are going to be doing this upcoming 2019-2020 season.
That's a good question,
Burns
Josh.
eternal in a diehard Bronco fan.
That's true.
And we'll I've reserved the Super Bowl date to not.
Oh, good.
Just in case.
Well, that's confidence there, isn't
we'll have
it?
to we'll have to have the congregation make vision boards
Yeah.
for the Broncos and send them over their way.
And you get to go to the games more often now, don't you? Not have to rush off.
That's a good point. Yeah, it used to be in days of old. I'd get my talk done, quickly get the offering started, and then slip out and let the other ministers end and rush to change all my clothes and rush to get to the bus or the train or whatever. But it'll be a little more leisurely. But I'll be there. I'll be in church.
Okay, great. Well, especially be with us at the end of September, the 22nd and the 29th, right?
That's
of
right.
September. Dr. Roger will be speaking at all 3 services those mornings. So.
Yeah, we're so grateful, and I know on behalf of the whole church, we're so blessed to have your ministry and your presence a part of what we're doing. It's fantastic.
Thanks for having me back, and thanks for embracing me as a congregant.
Oh, our pleasure.
I look forward to the spiritual food that you'll.
I haven't had that experience yet. I think you're.
I'm speaking with Dr. Rogers.
Oh yes, right there in the front row.
Yes,
right. What is he writing on those notes?
I've been known to be a bit of a heckler, so you never know. Prepare yourself.
When he shouts, and so it is in the middle of my prayer, because the Broncos are going to start playing. We'll see how that
Or
goes.
if I go,
hold up cue cards. 9.9.
no, it's the old do unto others. It comes around.
Yes.
Will you have any other questions for Dr. Roger?
I don't. Great getting to have this conversation and connect with everybody.
Thanks for tuning in,
Thanks.
everybody.
Delightful.
See you soon.